When the world's most powerful country has to repeatedly announce that it is in control, that is usually the first sign that it is not. Welcome to Fourth Post English. Donald Trump says America controls the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says otherwise. Commercial shipping remains severely disrupted. Energy routes are paralyzed. And Washington, with the largest navy on earth, is struggling to convert military superiority into political control. This is no longer merely an American-Iranian confrontation. It is the moment when the world begins to realize that America can still destroy, but can no longer automatically determine what comes next. That's what happened in Iran. At the same time, Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected Trump's Gaza plan, which he found very dear to his heart, which he demanded Nobel Prizes for. And at the same time, Netanyahu refuses to retreat from the ambitions keeping forces in Lebanon as a permanent conflict. An Israeli president completely dependent upon American protection is publicly resisting American president who desperately needs foreign policy victory before the midterms. One needs the war to continue for political survival, Netanyahu, and the other needs to declare peace for exactly the same thing, political survival. While Washington and Tel Aviv pull in opposite direction, Saudi Arabia, Türkiye and Pakistan are constructing an alternative regional security architecture. I have been saying this for quite some time. The Mecca Joint Defense Agreement treats an attack on one member as an attack on all three and establishes political and military coordination mechanism, somewhat like NATO. But this is not exactly a Muslim NATO. The three countries do not face identical threats. Pakistan has direct security calculations involving India and Afghanistan, but does not want a confrontation with Iran. Saudi Arabia fears Iranian expansion right now, above all, Houthis' capabilities, above all, and Israeli aggression. Turkey wants regional influence and strategic autonomy while remaining also inside NATO. So they all have different converging paths. The Pact's real purpose is therefore to prevent any single state. The Middle East order is changing, so they want to prevent any single state from dominating the post-American Middle East. At present, that primarily means containing Israeli aggression. But it also means preventing Iran from replacing American dominance with Iranian dominance. Iran has demonstrated that it can use geography, the Strait of Hormuz and its regional connections to impose enormous cost. Yet Saudi, Turkey and the other regional states will not accept Tehran as their new master. Iran may eventually join or cooperate with this emerging framework, this bloc, but as a one important power among several, not as the sole authority of the region. The Israeli elections in October will help determine what happens next. That's the whole point. If Netanyahu loses, Israel may sacrifice him to repair its relationships with Washington, obviously the American people, and also reduce regional pressure. If he wins and continues his aggression, countries such as Egypt and Jordan will have a strong reason to move towards emerging bloc, because new American Congress will not accept all these money going to Egypt. So Netanyahu's continuation would also deepen the crisis inside the American politics. Support for Israel is weakening among younger American voters, including the section of Republican base, while Democratic voters are already far more critical of Israel. The next Congress may not accept the old formula of unconditional Israeli protection. See, this does not mean that America has suddenly discovered human rights or the human existence in Israel. States do not experience moral awakenings like that. They experience changing interest. But American foreign policy is eventually affected by elections, public opinion, and domestic political pressure. If Israel tries to reverse that change by intervening in American politics even more aggressively, it may create a prolonged instability inside the United States itself. And then every month of American distraction will obviously benefit China and is still continue to do so. See, China does not need to loudly declare itself as the leader of the parallel world. America is divided across Iran, Israel, Gulf, Ukraine, and its own elections. Russia remains trapped in Ukraine, while the Middle East is searching for the partnerships that do not require complete political obedience to Washington anymore. So what does that tell us? See, China has already strong connections with Pakistan and Iran. Expanding engagement with Saudi, significant interest involving Turkey. If the Mecca Pact develops and if Iran eventually becomes associated with it, Beijing will benefit naturally. The regional states may continue dealing with America individually, but they will no longer want their security depend entirely upon American decisions. The same fragmentations affect Ukraine too. Russia is under pressure, but has little reason to concede while American attention is divided. Ukraine may continue imposing costs, but an eventual settlement could still require it to compromise on NATO membership or the permanent presence of the Western forces. That would not necessarily be a glorious Russian victory. It would show that America can no longer impose its preferred outcome in every conflict simultaneously. Now place Pakistan inside this changing order. Pakistan is strategically important. It brings nuclear capability, military experience, connections with China, long-standing relationship with Gulf, new relationship with Iran. But strategic relationship is not the same as receiving unlimited money, permanent diplomatic protection, and international approval for the political experiments at home. A defense pact can increase Pakistan's importance, but it can not repair the economy. It can not create political legitimacy or even persuade the public to accept another imposed constitutional structure, the 28th Amendment. For decades, Pakistan's internal power structure drew strength from American-led order. Washington required security cooperation, Gulf monarchies required military assistance in connection with the Washington, and those relationships provided Pakistan's ruling structure with financial and political oxygen. As American control weakens now, and as the Gulf builds a more autonomous security system, the old guarantees will inevitably change. And that is why Pakistan's domestic structure should appear fluid. And it seems now too. For 4 years, the establishment assumed that the political opposition could be suppressed. Governments could be manufactured and international visibility would be compensated for the domestic instability. But photographs and the diplomatic ceremonies never become economic or political stability. Now, we are suddenly being told that Pakistan needs a new provinces, new presidential structure, weaker provincial authority, another constitutional amendment, the 28th Amendment. And apparently every part of the system has failed, except thinking that they managed it for the 4 years. They did not manage it, they failed. And they have admitted themselves. If administrative reforms were genuinely the objective, elected local governments could be strengthened within the existing constitutional framework. But when every proposal transfers the political, financial, or the territorial powers towards the central government, reform begins to look like a centralization wearing a governance costume. More importantly, nobody with the political weight owns this proposal. Nawaz Sharif does not. Asif Ali Zardari does not. Imran Khan certainly will not accept merely because the relief from prison is included somewhere in the package. Provincial populations will not sit quietly, surrender their constitutional powers to an arrangement without an electoral mandate. This is why I believe the debate is largely smoke. It allows the power structure to purchase time while it waits for the Israelis' October elections and Americans' midterm elections. And the greater clarity about the new Middle East order. It wants to know whether another financial pipeline can be created and whether the Mecca Pact will provide more internationally visibility. Until then, Pakistan politics must remain fluid. The establishment must appear less dependent on PML-N. The opposition must receive some space, and the movement towards Imran Khan must appear possible. That does not mean the deal with Khan already exists. Concerns about his health and the demands for the access to the doctors are legitimate. But rumors about his death and the demands for the proof of life should not reduce the entire political struggle to a medical visit. Khan is not merely a prisoner whose pulse must be confirmed. He remains the country's most consequential political actor. The real question concerns his release, political rights, and the role in the next arrangement. A meeting, therefore, with the Khan from the establishment could become an icebreaker. Different formulas could be presented before the Khan, constitutional amendment, the 28th Amendment, an interim setup for 1 year, and elections within the 1 year where Khan could be brought into power in exchange for cooperation. But why would Khan rescue the same structure after 4 years of confrontation and after losing his eye? So even without discussing principles, simple power politics suggests that he will not demand, or he will not accept, and he will demand a fundamental redistribution of power. So the existing system is weakening, its international guarantees are changing, and its popularity, the Khan's popularity has survived all the imprisonment. He has no reason to legitimize another experiment designed to preserve the same balance. Any serious settlement would therefore require institutional space to be surrendered with Khan, power to be diluted, and credible elections to become the part of the outcome. That is precisely why movement towards Khan will activate every other political player. Pakistan People's Party will start protecting the Sindh's constitutional and the financial interest, which they always do. Nawaz Sharif will have to become active if the future of the Punjab and the PML-N is threatened. Maulana Fazlur Rahman will seek an electoral understanding with the PTI amid all this. And the planned mobilization of the Chief Minister Afridi on 27 September will provide a deadline around which these forces reposition themselves. The establishment may be suggesting a possible understanding with the Khan to pressure PML-N and Pakistan People's Party, but that bluff only works if Khan is willing to rescue the system. If he refuses, the pressure will return to the parties presently sustaining the government. Pakistan does not possess the economic cushion required for another coercive experiment. It is already dealing with the political alienation, Balochistan's conflict, insecurity in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and the legitimacy crisis in Pakistan administrative Kashmir. Nuclear weapons can deter conventional invasion, they cannot deter insurgencies, economic failure, or the consequences of denying people everything. A direct extra-constitutional takeover would face the same problem. Without money, without international guarantees, or pure public legitimacy, it would inherit the same economy, the same opposition, and the same Imran Khan. Only without even the decorative civil cover of the present arrangement. So yes, something has moved. But I do not see this as a master plan. I see an old international order weakening and a new Middle Eastern structure taking shape, still taking shape. And the Pakistan power elite trying to delay its decision until it discovers which external arrangement will emerge. The talk of provinces and the constitutional experiment is all smoke. The real question is whether Pakistan's establishment can adjust to a world in which external sponsorship can no longer guarantee internal control, and whether it can reach an accommodation with Imran Khan before events make the decision for everyone.